Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud is facing unprecedented opposition following his attempts to extend his term in office. According to the country's constitution, the president's term of office ends on Friday, May 15, 2026. Tensions have risen after the president recently sought to amend the constitution to extend his own and parliament's terms from 4 to 5 years and postpone elections until next year. The government held support rallies in the capital, Mogadishu, on May 11, 2026, after at least 2 people were killed and dozens injured when protesters took to the streets to voice their grievances. Security forces have been deployed near the residences of opposition leaders to prevent further demonstrations. The main opposition coalition, the Somali Future Council, which includes former President Sheikh Ahmed, several prime ministers, and leaders of Puntland and Jubaland, has issued a statement saying that the president will not be recognized after his constitutional term ends. A series of talks planned between the government and the opposition have failed. Opposition party leaders accuse the president of usurping power, warning that his actions will lead to new instability and conflict. Former President Mohamud has called on all political stakeholders to reach an inclusive electoral process before the current president's term ends. What sparked the political tension? In March, Parliament approved constitutional amendments that would extend the president's term and delay elections, but this sparked widespread criticism from opposition groups. Tensions have escalated further after Prime Minister Hamza Abdibar was appointed interim governor of the state, days after former Southwest State President Abdiaziz Laftagar was overthrown by federal troops. The federal government's decision to hold direct elections in the Southwest and to take similar steps in Galmudug and Hirshabelle has sparked a rift between Mogadishu and opposition leaders. Critics of Mohamud argue that the one-person, one-vote plan would make it difficult to abandon the ethnically based electoral system that has been in place since 2016 amid instability, limited central government control, and unresolved constitutional conflicts. The government's demolition campaign in Mogadishu has become one of the issues that has exacerbated tensions, with protesters saying they are grabbing public land for personal gain. Meanwhile, the arrests of journalists and activists in the capital have fueled growing media censorship and political unrest in the country. How did the country's media report the tension? Local media outlets have given extensive coverage to the U.S. brokered talks between the federal government and the opposition on May 13, 2026. The government delegation was represented by President Mohamud and First Deputy Prime Minister Salah Ahmed Zaman, while the opposition was represented by former President Sheikh Ahmed and Puntland leader said Abdullahi Deni. The privately owned Somali Guardian website warned that renewed unrest would not undo years of efforts to rebuild the country. He added that it also jeopardizes the military campaign against al-Shabaab. The website reported that the opposition's first demand was for the release of their detained supporters. Former Minister Abdurrahman Badiou said, "The international community intervened late, so the pressure they put on both sides is negligible." Another private media outlet, Mustaqbal, said that negotiations would resume on May 22nd as both sides failed to agree on elections and constitutional amendments. Garo Online, citing unnamed sources, reported that the federal government is pushing for the establishment of a technical committee. However, the opposition has reportedly rejected this plan, calling it a ploy to bypass the May 15th deadline. Al-Furqan, a pro-al-Shabaab group, highlighted the lack of trust between the government and the opposition and reported that negotiations taking place in the Halani camp, which is home to embassies and heavily guarded by international troops, have not yielded results. Somali Memo, another pro-al-Shabaab media outlet, reported that Western-led negotiations in Mogadishu have stalled. In April, Cab TV reported that the opposition had warned the Turkish ambassador not to interfere in Somalia's affairs, amid calls for foreign mediators. The site reported, citing an unnamed participant in the conversation, that Turkey was told to stay out of Somalia's internal affairs and to end the illegal oil deal it signed with President Mohamud's administration. Political analysts are not optimistic about the outcome of the negotiations, especially if the federal government seeks an extension of its term. What could happen next? Opposition leaders have called for a protest rally tomorrow, Saturday, August 16, 2026, saying that President Mohamud will not be accepted as the country's president if his term ends. It is expected that efforts will be made to hold political discussions and seek third-party intervention in the coming days. Puntland and Jubaland, which have severed ties with the federal government, have warned that they will hold separate elections in Garo and Kismayo if an agreement is not reached. There are fears that the opposition may seek foreign support after Defense Minister Ahmed Molamfiki denounced the organizers of the protests as backed by foreign forces. Meanwhile, commentators say the move of troops deployed in various parts of the country to Mogadishu, citing tensions with the central government, will weaken the campaign against al-Shabaab. Analysts have warned that al-Shabaab could exploit this political instability to expand its territory. Somalia is likely to remain unstable, with constitutional reform and power extension dominating the political debate. In the past, election-related disputes have sparked armed clashes between security forces and factions supporting the opposition.